Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines and welcome to another episode of Wreckers or Checkers.
Welcome in, everybody. How you guys doing? It is your boy Travis and Mr. Coors Lightyear himself coming to you on a Friday night of All-Star Weekend. What's going on,
What's
man?
happening, everybody?
Well, I'm pretty excited. Something a little different this week. How about you?
Very excited. We're looking at a 5/8 mile dash for cash this weekend.
Hell yeah. Now, it should be interesting. Did you watch any of the qualifying today? Get
A
in on
little
any of that?
bit, not a ton of it, but a little bit. I did catch a little. It's so much more interesting when you get the pit crew involved.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it. I liked watching the pit crew battles and stuff.
I will say I wish they went back to letting the guys come down pit road at 150 miles an hour because that was so much funner to watch. Like, get the hell out of the way. If I stop, I stop. If I don't, you die.
Yeah. This is your
Like,
problem, not mine.
exactly. You
Hell yeah.
know,
No, that was
who
pretty
cares if
cool.
you flat out the tires because we're changing them anyway.
Yeah, seriously. Hell yeah. Well, we also got a little bit of Kansas recapping to do today. Maybe we should
Just
get into that before we get too far ahead of ourselves on the All-Star hype here. Should we
fair
get
enough.
to records and checkers of the week from Kansas?
Let's roll her out, buddy.
All right. Checker of the week, boring as hell. Sorry, everybody. It's Kyle Larson.
Oh, it's Kyle Larson. What do you know?
Oh, yeah. Checker of the week because the dude dominated the whole race. Sorry. We had a few stints of other people looking great. Don't get me wrong, but the guy led 200 and some laps. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
it's,
you can't doubt the domination, right?
yeah,
I mean,
it was,
as much as some of us say it's boring. I mean, anyone that can go out and dominate a racetrack, you can't downplay that.
yep. And it wasn't, just him. His team was on point. Their car looked great. Like, he wasn't the fastest car out there all the time, for sure. There was definitely better looking cars, but I think we saw the ramifications of some of those better looking cars here. And one of those, if you're cool to move on, would be our wrecker of the week.
Yeah, bring him up.
I had to put Kozlowski here, man. I felt bad. He lost that
Yeah,
tire. He was looking good. I think he was running the tire pressure so low, and that's why he was looking so damn good. But lost that tire, gets loose. I believe this was in early stage 3,
yep.
which was rough because there were several different wrecks, cautions, nothing too major, but this one had the most implications to me because he was just past Larson and was looking to challenge Chase for first place, in my opinion. He was looking good, looking strong, better than we've seen Kozlowski look all year, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And then blows the tire, he's out. It's like I felt bad for him, honestly. Um, but yeah, that was at a point in the race when Chase Elliott looked like he was, the front runner, going to be.
Got screwed by his pit crew.
Yeah, it was a short-lived part of the race, and then Larson returned to the dominance. That was basically how that went. But
For
yeah,
a for, for a funny note between me and you that only a couple of our listeners will catch is during this part of the race, Bad Brad looked great, right? And me and a certain somebody that we know as Pops looked at each other and said to one another, Bad Brad's running that wall, but Bad Brad don't like that wall. And I said, that wall's going to get Bad Brad. And like 6 laps later, this very picture happened.
yeah, got him.
Got him.
Yeah, yeah, Pops, you would call that, man.
Yeah.
You would. All
Stud.
right, let's get back into the full recap then. Records and checkers. Recapped the top 10. Obviously, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Briscoe. Not a whole lot of surprises here. One thing we do got to mention is Busher getting his PP whacked after the race. But he had it was something weird too. Like, what, it was too much support in the front end or something. Like,
Um, so it was a couple. He got nailed for two different things. It was overall assembly rules, and then for also the front bumper cover.
yeah, it was like the front bumper cover had too much support or something. Is what I
Yeah,
read, which
something
is
along those
something weird
lines.
like that. I get
Which
it
that
there.
that killed him, dude. Like I know we're gonna talk about it here shortly, but like that knocked him from being a 12 in the points to 24th in the
Oh
points.
yeah, yeah. For a guy
Like
who doesn't have a win yet either, I don't think, right?
they docked him 60 championship points, 5
Oof.
playoff points, and $75,000. Additionally, his crew chief got suspended for 2 races.
Yeah, that's big too. That's the other thing that I noticed. I was like, oh, that's because they've been looking good. The team's been
Yeah.
clicking. It seems like so. You throw 2 weeks of not having your crew together, that's tough as well.
Well, shit, just last week we were talking about how Busher's looking like the top dog in RFK.
Right.
Like how, if he bounces back and does good, not necessarily this week, but the following week, like hopefully this all-star race that doesn't matter except for money in the driver's pocket
Yeah.
counts towards his races for his crew chief suspension. But like say he bounces back at wherever we are after North Wilkesboro, which is I guess the Charlotte 600. Hopefully, like if he comes out and runs killer there, hopefully that just puts an exclamation point on it. Don't matter who I got, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I'd like to see that too. As much as I love Bad Brad, I mean these two guys, Priest and Busher, they're all pushing to be the best guy there. Priest has been running well this year too, and
Yeah,
and,
not bad at all.
and save for one flat tire, Kozlowski could have had a win last week. So RFK, two in the top 10 last week. Brad, if
John Hunter Nemechek
yeah,
creeped back
up
into
there
the top
again,
10
up there again.
2 weeks in a row.
The other one I wanted to talk about though was Josh Berry. He
Stud.
started 38th, worked his way all the way up. He I think he actually might have worked his way through the pack twice if I'm remembering correctly. But regardless, he overcame a lot. I felt like on the track and still finished sixth place. Uh, really competing pretty well this year, in my opinion. Um, Barry's been doing good. I feel like he's probably another one that's going to move on to Team Penske as soon as somebody else decides to retire.
Yeah, very well could. One I'd like to point out is I'm pretty sure during our betting segment last week, I called Bowman for a top 5 finish, and
Ooh,
he finished fifth for his 11th straight top 10 finish at Kansas.
nice. Yeah, that's true. I remember that because yeah, it was how many top tens? 11 this
11
time. Yeah,
straight with this one.
that's ridiculous. I remember you talking about that now. Yeah, I don't want to talk about my betting picks from last week. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean that's my only like shining moment from my betting picks last week.
Your
So,
boys pit crew screwed me on my betting last week.
oh, he screwed me too because I had money on him and he was looking like a surefire bet to win, and
Yeah, he was
he
looking good
pulled in a 14-second pit stop, and that
on
does
the
not
money
fly on
stop
the money
too.
stop.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You can't be doing that late in the race. That sucks.
No. Chase had a night and day better car than Larson. His tires were wearing better. Larson gimped around the racetrack with 5 to go, and Chase had the car until he got back in too much traffic to overcome,
Yeah.
which killed him.
Well, and honestly, I thought it was going to be a little closer at the very end there with Bell coming up
I
on
did too.
Larson because Larson was falling off quick.
Yeah.
You could tell he was dropping off, shredding tires pretty fast. So, but at the end of the day, the guy led 221 laps. It was kind of ridiculous, and
Yeah.
I have a
Can't be
feeling
mad
that
at it.
yeah, no, it was a if I was to just look at the stats here, I would have thought this was a really boring race, but I didn't feel like it was that boring. I felt like there was enough, not necessarily lead changes, but enough people who seemed competitive to where it didn't feel like Larson was just gone from the beginning.
A
Because
100%.
you had Blaney that always looked good. You had Bell that looked good. You had Elliott and Kozlowski that were pushing hard at the beginning of stage 3. So at least there was some excitement there, even though if you're just looking at the stats at the end, like it looks like Larson total domination, but it didn't necessarily feel that way watching the race, at least.
Agreed. Like you say, it looks like it was one of those races where it was just nothing but Larson running around in front, but it it was more. I would say this was a funner race to watch than like Talladega was. Like
Yeah.
there was enough going on throughout the whole race to where it was a good race to watch from a fan perspective.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people in the social media world, whatever, are saying it wasn't as fun, but that's because races have been kind of down this year from a fan standpoint to where they don't look at the domination of the race as a fun race to watch. But this wasn't like the Bristol race where Larson dominated for 400 laps, right?
Right.
Like it was a easy eye appeal to watch and still have a good time watching it.
Yeah,
To where
there was enough action, passing, and people moving through the middle of the pack that always helps.
right, yeah, and in your select cautions that came out because people were wrecking, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, it wasn't quite like Texas though, where it
no,
was just like a caution every 30 seconds there for a while.
no, Texas has slowly moved into my one of my need to go to tracks.
Yeah. Well, and even so, they're talking about making a rotation for the championship race. Like, what if we get a Texas championship race?
Let's get it.
That would be fun. After I don't know, after a couple weeks ago, I
All about it.
I kind of like the idea.
Mm-hmm.
It would be good. Um, Miami is going to be this year, but I kind of like the idea of the rotation because then they can almost do it like every year when it's like when the NFL releases their schedule and it's like a big thing, right? Like
Right,
it's kind of like building some suspense around the
right,
championship race, knowing that it's going to be somewhere different every year.
right. Where are we going? Right.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like it.
Yeah, because right now we're set with Phoenix this year and Miami next year. Where are we going after that? We
Right.
know it's not going to be a road course. We know it's not going to be a super speedway.
Yeah. Yep. Mile and a
But
halfs.
yeah,
Yep.
mile and a half to a mile,
And it's got to be a
and
mile and a half in an area that has decent weather in the fall time, which
right,
limits you some as well. But I think Texas could fit that.
definitely.
All right, well, let's get into the preview of this all-star race here. So, what I did here was I took a snapshot of the odds before qualifying today because they're not available right now. They're still Vegas is still crunching their numbers, trying to figure out who's going to do what with the qualifying. So I figured the most help we could do tonight, the most benefit we could give tonight would be here's what they were before qualifying, and then let's take a look at qualifying, and then let's identify some of these guys that maybe are going to be movers up or down that we like. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
For example, Kozlowski was plus 3,000 earlier. That would have been a great one to take.
For example, Kyle Larson wasn't even qualifying in his own car
Right.
because he wasn't driving. He was
Exactly.
driving for Indy.
Allgaier. So Allgaier qualifies for Larson, right? And qualifies 15th out of the 20 who are for sure in it, right?
That's what he gets.
Well, but I kind of like that, right? So he qualifies 15th for him. What's that going to do to Larson's odds?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So does
Right.
that move Larson's odds to more like 700, 800, 900?
Potentially. Potentially.
At that point, then I really like Larson. You know what I'm saying? So it will
Very
be
much so.
it will be interesting to see. Um, the other big movers that I'm seeing are going to be Kyle Busch. I think is gonna I think he's gonna move up a bit because I actually bet Kyle Busch before qualifying because I liked Kyle Busch at plus 2,500. I don't normally bet on Kyle Busch. I don't really like the guy a ton, honestly.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
plus 2,500, I felt like that was worth a little bit. It was worth a little bit of a sprinkle on that, you know. I wish I would have put it on Keselowski at this point. But short track, I didn't feel like Keselowski was going to be dominant like he was.
Well, and qualifying so weird here. Like when you're interacting with the pit crew, and there's so many other factors besides just going out and turning a fast lap, right?
Yeah, right. Well, did you probably didn't see it, but like SVG
Oh yeah,
for the open
oh yeah.
qualifying.
He was fast,
Well,
dude.
and it was insane. Like just they were just showing his like his ghost image over everybody else's because he was the leader, right? And so when everybody else was trying to qualify, you were seeing his car and like the line that he was taking into the pit versus everybody else's line, and it was just like that rally car mentality, right? Where he's got that braking down, where he can just like
Right.
dive into the pit at the last minute. He's got the braking to not lose control, and he shaved so much time on that last corner coming into the pits because there was a lot of cars that were neck and neck with him on the 3D image, but then on that last corner he just pulls out because they're braking to get into the pit way before he did.
Definitely.
It was kind of cool.
Uh, I'm going to go ahead and say, for the record and checkers basis here, we are not saying bet on SVG. He's going to
Absolutely
lose a
not.
tire somewhere
Dude,
throughout the race. If he even makes it into the All-Star race, he will lose a tire. We've covered that for the last like 6 weeks.
I said the guy was good at braking on one corner. All right, that's not that is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement on betting on him. However,
But I agree, though. He
it was
looked great
interesting to
for his
watch.
qualifying lap.
He did, but like you said, it's one lap,
You're right.
so we'll see how it goes when they're running a couple hundred of them. Bowman did well, Bell did well, qualifying wise, that is. So I would expect Bowman to be moving up the charts here. The ones I like to focus on, though, are the ones that didn't qualify well, who had good odds beforehand, i.e., Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney could potentially be a value here after qualifying 19th. So
He
let's.
won like 2022, 2023, somewhere in there. He pulled an All-Star race a couple years ago.
Yep. So I believe it must have been 2022 that he won. Yeah.
But at some point, we're going to get to where we hit a Blaney, because I feel like we talk about him every week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he lets us down.
Well,
But
my thought here though is like, okay, before qualifying, Vegas thinks he's plus 600. He qualifies 19th out of 20. Uh, Maybe Vegas sees him as plus 1,200 now or plus 1,100, and at that value, I like those.
that's a
odds.
must bet.
Right.
Yeah, that's a must bet.
I don't know
I
how
agree
much he
with you there.
drops there, but I have a feeling, even though it's a short track, I have a feeling they're probably not going to drop him a ton.
Definitely.
He'll drop into that plus 9, plus 1,000 maybe, but
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know that I see anybody else that had a big swing that I'm going to be looking to bet on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Bowman's odds went up. He qualified like top 5, I think.
Yeah,
Top 3.
he's third. William Byron qualified 5th, so he's probably going to stay about the same, if not move up a little bit. Logano 6th, so he's in the same boat. Chase Elliott qualified 10th. I had a little bit of money on him at plus 900 already. I could see him maybe going a little bit backwards there to plus 1100, so or something like that.
Potentially, yeah, I can see that. Hmm. Yeah, there's I don't know. It's such a weird one because we don't race here all the time, right?
Yeah.
So
So this is only the third All Star race here. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah,
since like 2022, 2023.
2023, I think. So that's all I saw as far as data on it. And then the last race was 1996. So they stopped racing here in 96, is what it seemed like.
So yeah, 97 they stopped racing here and they had a
Okay.
gap from 97 to 2010 and then they had another gap from they ran something here in between and they closed from 2011 to 22.
Okay.
So they're they had a bunch of big gaps here to where they were not running NASCAR here.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is that uh, just the Cup Series, or were they racing other
Yeah,
things in this?
I think they were still racing like modifieds and stuff like that here. They weren't racing NASCAR though.
Gotcha.
No,
Yeah,
no Cup Series.
I saw the late models racing a little bit earlier. I was watching a
Yeah,
little bit of that.
uh,
Looked like a shit show, dude. They were like,
yeah.
they were 9 laps in. They had 3 cautions already. It was,
Uh, Happy Harvick's boy was racing there Thursday.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
Keelan Harvick. I can't
Hmm.
remember. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's a youngster and he's racing like Pro Street or Hobby Stock or something. But he
Right.
was out kicking ass on Thursday, and
Hell
his
yeah.
old man was in the booth with Dale Jr. calling the race.
Oh, I bet that was cool
Yeah,
for them.
so
I bet that was a cool moment for them to be out there because they don't normally get a call races together, right? Working for different outlets, I think.
no, like Harvick's like a Fox Sports guy, so I think it kind of lined up that way.
Right. Yeah, and then I think I saw two of the Quapples in there tonight doing the late models. Carson
Yeah,
and was his brother in there?
get the one that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the one I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, exactly.
That one. But that was cool. I didn't know Carson Quapple would be down there racing.
I think a bunch of the big timers are down there. I think Chase ran this weekend
LaJoy,
down there
LaJoy
with
was
a
down there.
Joy. I think Bubba ran. There's a handful. Carson Osavar. There's a handful of those dudes that went down there because that's where like a lot of these guys' passion really comes from, right? Is
Right.
running that kind of racing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the big timers down there kicking the shit out of the little guys.
Oh
Like
yeah. Or getting the shit
it,
kicked out of them.
potentially, but I have trouble seeing that. But
It's a
like
different style of racing, though. You know.
true, but I mean, imagine being Joe Nobody and having six NASCAR drivers pull up because they're going to
Yeah.
run a
Yeah.
car this weekend. Like it's like awesome.
Oh, cool. Cool. So
You're
that,
buying beer later.
yeah, my
Like
life savings is in this car actually. So
right, you're
please
here on a
don't kill me.
whim and I'm here with everything I own invested into this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
So to wrap up, betting wise, I'm looking at where Larson's odds go because of the qualifying 15th. I'm looking at where Blaney's odds go because he qualified 19th, I think it was. And then also, I'm seeing how high a couple of them climb. Elliott, I still like probably because I don't think his odds are going to change a ton. Josh Berry, I still like. He actually won the Open here 2023 or 2024. One of the last 2 years, he won the Open race here. So I do like Berry here as well, depending on the odds. So those are the guys that I'm keeping my eye on. Tyler Reddick as well. Qualified ninth, so I don't know that he drops a bunch. But if he drops maybe into the plus 17, plus 1800 range, could be a good value there.
I love Josh Berry this weekend. This is Josh Berry Racing
Yeah.
101.
Yeah.
This is where Josh Berry comes from. This is the type of racing he thrives from. I think Josh Berry is going to turn out a good race.
Hell yeah. I'm all for that as well. And plus 1800 before qualifying. I don't think it changes a bunch after qualifying. He qualified 13th, so I'm guessing he's staying right about there.
Most likely.
And I think that's a hell of a value. Throw $10 on
Yep.
that.
Living large.
You throw $10 on that, you just paid your bar tab for the night.
If you're not in Vegas,
you're good to go. Well, yeah. That's why you don't pay for drinks in Vegas, though. Got to go to the casino.
Good luck.
All right, let's check in on the standings real quick. Well,
not a ton's changed except for, like we said, Mr. Busher falling out of the top 16.
Yeah, he fell.
Mr. Denny Hamlin with his second DNF of the week, dropping again.
Yep, dropping to 4 spots to the 7. Bubba dropping, Reddick dropping, a lot of Toyotas dropping. But then you got Priest, Cindric, and Briscoe and Stenhouse all coming up from the bottom here.
Mm-hmm.
Some movers. Ryan Priest's been quiet for the last, a few weeks there in between, but he had a strong start to the year and then had a good race last week.
He's only in top 16 because the top dog at his race team dropped out of the top fucking 16. I mean that's all there is to it, in my opinion. I think Priest or Bush will win a race before the year's out, and Priest won't make the playoffs.
That's fair. I could see that happening for sure. There are several of these guys that need a win. I'm looking at Bubba. I'm looking at Chastain. I'm looking at Briscoe. They're consistent-ish, but a win would just solidify where they're at.
Definitely.
They're kind of on that bubble down there.
Yeah, I mean, we're dang near to what we can call the halfway point now almost. And we're starting to see it kind of play out. I mean, we get guys like, granted, I feel like I'm kind of cherry picking it because they're my race team I root for, but Chase Elliott with no wins is still riding in 4th. Bowman with no wins, sitting in 8th. I mean, those are some guys that some DNF. Well, and Bowman's been on a rough stretch, and he's still sitting in 4th place or in 8th place.
Right.
So, like, those are some guys that are you almost expect to win somewhere, so you feel like their positioning's almost concreted, right?
Yeah, and they're all of those guys have been in a position this year. Pretty much everybody in the top 15 here has been in a position this year where they could have won a race had things shaked out a little different, right?
Definitely.
So we're cherry picking a little bit, but at the same time, it is interesting to see the movement in the top 15 here. It's always some new names cycling in and out.
It's wild to see a guy like Cindric who's got a win down there all the way in, what is it, 13th?
Yeah.
But
he's got one top 5.
Right. Where's Josh Berry?
You look at, he's not in the top 15.
No kidding.
Kind of the same thing though, right? Like,
right.
He probably doesn't have a bunch of top 5s. If you look at the guys who are in the top 10, it's 8 top 5s, 5 top 5s, 6, 3, 5, 3, 5, 2, 1, 2, 2, 4. Those top 5s are big for the points.
Yeah.
And then you got laps led and stage points as well. Stage wins are big, but
definitely.
But yeah, it's. I think we're getting an idea.
Very much so. It's starting to. You were starting to see the landscape kind of flatten out per se, right? Like
Yeah,
the cream is rising to the top,
as
and
as Macho Man Randy Savage would say, the cream rises
rises
to
to
the
the
top.
top.
Right?
I have an aluminum 12 by 12 of that in my laundry room, and my wife hates
What? No.
it. Yes,
How could you
when
hate
we're
that?
because she don't understand it.
Wouldn't expect her to.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great.
Uh,
Cream.
well, what do you think? Should we dive into a little North Wilkesboro history?
Yeah, you got some?
Yeah, I got a little bit. Um, so for those that don't know, Wilkesboro's inaugural season was 1947, and it was a dirt track back then. Um, it was ran by a bunch of moonshiners because North Wilkesboro is the moonshine capital of the world. For those that don't know that, this is basically where moonshine was started, damn near. At least where the runners came from. Like you needed someone to run your shine in the 40s. They were coming from North Wilkesboro, like where it came from.
So is that why
Um,
racing was big in the community?
definitely, definitely big in the community because of that reason. Um, so like the inaugural NASCAR season was 49, but like Junior Johnson, who is a NASCAR legend, and a bunch of other moonshiners went out and ran this track in 47. Um, but it's a really small venue that only seats about 20 to 25,000 people. Um, it's got a little bit of banking in the corners and no banking in the straights. It's got 13-degree banking, which is really small for a banking corner on a little 5/8 track, to 3-degree banking in the flats. And as we kind of discussed, the rumor is that they ran out of money and dirt to be able to work on the track. So that plays a big factor in it. It is the 78-year anniversary this weekend of when this track opened up. Uh, May, like, is it this? It might be next week. May 18th. I guess it's next weekend. I don't know what fucking day it is. May 18th, 1947
That's this
is
weekend.
when this track. Is it this weekend? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. May 18th, 1947 is when this track opened.
Nice.
So now we're
Damn.
7 to 8 years down the road, and it is the recumbents of it, right? So, um,
Are you making up words?
I might be. Uh,
Maybe not.
so Richard Petty, Richard Petty's the most winningest driver here in the NASCAR world. He's got 15 wins here. Darrell
Damn.
Waltrip has 10 wins here. Um,
Earnhart's
that
got 5.
5, yeah, which says something because Earnhardt was a short track beast, right?
Yeah.
But Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip were
15, dude.
15 and 10.
That's
Like
crazy.
those are hard to compete with. Um, there is a fun fact because, like I was talking about, Junior Johnson was one of the first guys to race here, and people that know NASCAR know who Junior Johnson is. He's a NASCAR Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
In 1956, Junior Johnson went to prison for prohibition running moonshine, right?
In 56?
Yeah, he got in trouble for running moonshine.
Damn.
He spent like a year in prison, and then in 1986, years and years later, President Ronnie Reagan pardoned him for his stuff. So even though he was like, "No, Junior Johnson's my guy. You're not getting labeled as a criminal for that." you're going to go out and run NASCAR. Cause I think there was a time that it kind of, uh, him being a felon for being a moonshiner, like had like a black mark on him for NASCAR.
Yeah.
I think there was kind of that going on.
It's like being a steroids user for baseball Hall of Famers,
Right.
right?
Even though steroids saved baseball, MLB suck it.
Yeah.
Steroids saved you.
Yes. The
Um,
90s, that's what it was all about.
John Dowd is Barry Bonds. You know, if you know, you know. Um, and then for last but not least, you want to take a guess who's got the lap record here, Travis?
Gee, would it be Kyle Larson?
2024, Kyle Larson, 18.362 seconds.
Color me shocked.
Right? 3 tracks in a row.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 in a row that he's had the lap record at. Like, you
It's
almost can't even write this shit no more.
it's
Like,
one of those things where like were there people who hated Michael Jordan in Michael Jordan's era, you know? Like I'm
yeah.
not saying Kyle Larson is Michael Jordan, but you know what I mean? Like when you have the guy who's dominating and it's just like it sucks to watch because he's not your guy.
Oh yeah, Isaiah from the Pistons would have shaked Michael Jordan.
Oh, come on now. We're not even going to get into this right now. Oh, God.
But yeah, I 100% agree. It's hard to say that Kyle Larson is not the premier NASCAR driver in NASCAR. Like 20 years from now, we could very well look back and be like, that was the Kyle Larson era.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no,
Like,
and that's why I kind of brought it up because I think like we're kind of living in this era, right, where this is the next Jeff Gordon or this is the
mm-hmm.
next,
Yeah.
Earnhardt or whatever, right? Like everybody's got an era.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I feel like NASCAR right now though feels like there's a ton of dudes that this could be their era. You could say that about Joey. He's got 3 championships, right?
Right.
So it's hard to call it one guy's era, but Larson just seems like he dominates everywhere, or not dominates, but he could dominate at any given track.
Right. And I feel like Larson's kind of on the same trajectory per se is like if you think to the early 2010s plus, right? Like Kyle Busch
Yeah,
was the premier NASCAR driver, even though everybody hated him
yeah,
because of how he acted. Which nowadays I'm growing to be a Kyle Busch fan now that he's racing for Childress and this that
now
and the
that
other.
he's eating a big old fucking humble pie cake and not winning any damn
Definitely.
races.
Now that he's been humble, he's a solid dude. I feel like, but
As soon as
like,
Kyle Larson starts losing every damn race, I'm gonna like the guy.
right. But I feel like it's kind of that same. There's wasn't a race that you went in on in the early 2010s that you were like Kyle Busch is a favorite. Like
Yeah,
he could sweep the weekend. He could go out there and win
yeah,
trucks, Xfinity, and just do whatever he wants. To where now we're kind of looking at it as well. Great, we got Kyle Larson out there this weekend.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and it's him against the world. I know it's the 11 against the world, but it's really the 5 against the world because everyone else has to keep up with that 5 car. There's a reason
yep,
he is out there running at Indy this weekend, trying to run in a Formula One car, doing his thing to try to pull the double, and it really sets a tone for everybody else. Which I think that all his extracurriculars, running dirt, running whatever high limit, all the other stuff he does, I think makes him such a better racer than a lot of people.
yeah.
But I do think that there's a reason Kyle Larson's name floats around for, yeah, that's the best wheelman on this planet.
It's hard to argue with that, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, in
The guy
Formula
races
One
everything and
fans,
he's good at all of it, right?
right. And Formula One fans are gonna be like, "Oh, so and so." I don't
It's
watch Formula One.
Verstappen or
Yeah, Verstappen.
yeah, whatever his name
And
is.
so, but yeah, can Verstappen go jump in a midget or this or that and go bend that son of a bitch sideways around a dirt corner and make it stick and
But
pull out a first?
he's a Formula One guy, dude.
Probably not.
Those guys are like not touching anything for under $20 million, right? And they're like, this is
Exactly.
much below me.
And wouldn't know what to do when some dirt got on him. Like
Oh, can you imagine? They'd have to go change their tracksuit immediately.
exactly.
Like,
Like
oh,
like
sir, this
Kyle
track is
Larson
dirty.
Kyle Larson is buried two, like probably $3 million F1 cars into the wall at Indy in the last week, and it's like, well, give me another one, let's go. you know,
Can we fix this thing, or we gotta get a new
yeah,
one?
that shit'll buff out.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Put some new tires on that thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, those Formula One guys are nuts. They doing 220, 230 is
Oh,
crazy in a slim down rocket, which, but at the
well,
same
and
time,
the
I mean,
cornering, how fast they
yeah,
corner is insane. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's a
it's
totally
a different
different
ballgame.
sport, but yeah, it is funny. I feel like the IndyCar and the Formula One cars, you get a lot more individual maybe cornering and passing and stuff like that. But when you see like the NASCARs on like a super speedway, I feel like it's more of a not a team sport, but like you really have to be interlinked with other people and know what everybody else is doing because it affects your vehicle so much. And I'm sure I
100%.
don't know a ton about Formula One. I'm sure there's some of that, but they're not like just going around an oval drafting each other, right? Like there's a lot
Right.
of cornering happening, and so I'm sure you have to be aware of the draft lanes behind the cars in front of you. But I think it's a little different when you're just making an oval at 200 miles an hour repeatedly.
Definitely. And I feel like their car shapes too are meant more to like cut the wind versus like
Right.
a stock car is
Yes.
meant to be shaped like a car you're driving down the road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Because you can totally just go buy one of these.
yeah, definitely. But at the same time, like if you took either one of these two cars behind us and put the wing on it and cut it down to make it the same shape as a F1 car, I bet you they damn near do the 230 that these
Oh yeah.
F1 cars would do, right? They just ain't built that way. The aerodynamics are all off. So,
Well, yeah. If you just took the restrictor plates off them and allowed that engine to actually do what it wanted to do, then
right.
yes, they would do all of that. I bet.
Cut the underside out so it wouldn't turn into an airplane. And,
Well,
you know,
part of it, yeah. You need a little more downforce if we're gonna do all that.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's what the big wings for on the Indy cars.
yeah.
So,
All right. Well, we better let everybody get out of here.
Roger
You got
that.
any final notes, final things to watch for this weekend?
I mean, like we talked about, I think we need to stay ahead and look at Josh Berry this weekend. Like I said, I love Josh Berry on the short track, and this is the type Josh Berry's raced here before.
Yeah,
This is the type of racing Josh Berry comes from. I think Josh Berry is the guy to watch this weekend. But on top of that, records are checkers, baby. Keep those rubbers down and stay safe. Stay blessed, everybody.
agreed. Adios. Stay safe. We'll see you.